Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Maura and I'm a physical therapist and certified yoga teacher. Today I'll be doing some form tips and variation options for your downward facing dog. Downward dog is a really common pose in a lot of different styles of yoga, but it's not comfortable for everyone. Luckily, there's plenty of options for you to make this pose accessible. As always, please make sure it's safe for you to be practicing yoga and that you are always listening to your body. I do have some props with me today that you might find useful, some blocks and a chair. We'll get into these a little bit later in the video. But first, let's take a look at downward facing dog and just kind of go through what's happening at each point of the body and some things that you can pay attention to. So I'll come into a downward facing dog from a tabletop position. And I'm going to bring my hands a little bit further than I would have in tabletop. And then I'm going to tuck my toes and send the hips up and back. Now, starting with the hands, one thing that can be uncomfortable is that people tend to put all the weight through their wrist. And if you have any wrist injuries, arthritis, carpal tunnel, that isn't very comfortable. So make sure that you're spreading the weight between all 10 fingers. It really does help to take the pressure off the wrist. Coming up to the elbows, you want to turn the front of the elbows toward the top of the mat. And this helps to externally rotate the shoulder and help avoid any impingement happening at the shoulder. Make sure that you're pressing and using. Here, see how I'm coming up and down, but I'm not really moving? I'm using my scapular muscles here to help stabilize me in this pose. You want to make sure that you can relax the head and that you're relaxing the jaw. Sending the hips high, and this may mean bending the knees if hamstring flexibility is limiting you. The feet are about hip-width distance apart and the heels do not have to touch the ground. That's actually a common misconception with downward facing dog. So what happens is people try to really get their heels down and they don't have the flexibility, so then the pose ends up breaking down, compensating in other parts. So some variations to be able to create some space in this pose are to use blocks. Make sure that they are not going to slide on your mat if you're using blocks. This can also help with wrist pain. So same thing, placing your hands on the blocks instead of the mat, and then pressing up and back. If you'll notice, this just changes my angle a little bit, and I'm able to actually get my heels to the floor here. It provides a little bit of a different sensation. Plus, I'm just going to move back so that I don't kick the chair. If you have trouble with lifting the leg and bringing a leg forward to step through to, say, a warrior one, the blocks give you an extra few inches of space to be able to clear your leg. If you don't like downward facing dog at all, or you have an injury, you can always transition through tabletop just like this, and maybe just take some cat and cow and then roll into a child's pose just to match the pace of a vinyasa in your class. You can also just work on puppy pose, which is like this. So in this pose, I'm working on shoulder flexion and sending the hips back. It also helps to elongate the spine, so it's like a half of a downward facing dog. You can always just take a child's pose and skip it all together. Or you can incorporate a chair into your practice and do more of a standing downward facing dog variation, placing your hands on the chair and just trying to make that triangle shape from a standing pose. If you'd like to use the lower part of the chair, then it looks like this. A chair is a great prop for a lot of different poses. It's a great accessory if you have any difficulty getting down and up off of the floor. And it's good for balance for some other standing poses. Those two variations of downward facing dog are also useful during the day. Say if you're at work and you just like to do some stretching to elongate your back, get some movement in your shoulders. It's a good thing to do on the go. Leave a comment and let me know which of these variations is your favorite and what you're going to try next. Make sure to like and subscribe for more content like this. And if you're new to yoga, check the link in the description box down below where you can get my free Yoga Poses for Beginners guide, breaking down 10 common poses just like this. See you next time.